Story 1. I was 14. In my life, this was my third creepy encounter. We were at a hotel in Scotland for an after-wedding party. I have no mental or physical issues that would cause me to have visions or anything. I consider myself a rational guy, not easily spooked then or now. I have a mind that rationalizes things for me. Now, on to the story. My mom, dad, and I were going to this hotel for an after-wedding party. When we arrived, we went to our hotel rooms and put everything away. I took my phone with me, of course. Then, my family and I joined my extended family at the after-party. I was with kids my age and a couple of years younger. We played and hung out until dinner, then resumed our games. I remember it getting quite dark outside. My cousins and I were chatting about some game. I think it had something to do with cookies, not sure though. One of my cousins wanted to get something from their room, which they had forgotten. So, like any bored kids, we all piled on the chance for at least something to do. We got the keys to the room and headed up to the second floor of the hotel. We took the elevator up and walked to the side of the hotel where their room was. We passed a double door with big grand windows that separated the hallway in the middle. We passed by and everything was happy and fun, even boring, until we got to the room. Immediately, everyone felt that primal urge you feel when the hairs on the back of your neck raise due to fear. We hadn't even gone into the room yet. I turned to one of my cousins and said, "Are you going to open the door?" My voice was weirdly calm, even though I was scared because I was the oldest. Something in me knew something was off. We all felt it. My cousin replied, taking the key from the youngest. Yeah, of course." She unlocked and opened the door. For a split second, as the gap in the door widened when we opened it, I swear, for the life of me, I saw something. A shadowy figure with no features to its body, standing next to the bed. The room was set up so that as you open the door, the bathroom is opposite the door, and to the slight right is the bedroom with two beds. The figure was in between the gap between the two beds. It disappeared as we fully opened the door. With all that was in me, I held in my scream of shock because I thought it might be a trick of the light or something. For a second, we stood there like idiots looking into the room. Then, we all piled in as the cousin who wanted to go to the room grabbed the item they wanted. Immediately, we all ran out and locked the door. But that wasn't enough for us. We ran through the corridor, terrified of this thing that scared us so much. As we ran, I looked back, and I swear it looked like something was peeking around the corner of the corridor. We passed through those doors again and stopped just for a moment. I turned fully to the window on the door and peered in. There was the same figure. This time it wasn't still. It was running for us. No features still, but we felt its aura. The booming, terrifying aura. If it had a face, it would probably be the stuff of nightmares. Of course, we weren't idiots. We ran back to where our parents were and told them about it, but they thought we were playing. We weren't. Nonetheless, we continued with our night. That night, as my parents and I walked to our hotel room, we had to pass the same room as before. The same feeling stayed with me until I got into my hotel room with my parents. It was terrifying. I'm supposed to be rational, but every fiber of my being knew and thought that what happened was real. We all saw the figure as it ran at us. We all felt its presence. Story 2. This incident occurred in my house while I was abroad. My sister, my dad, and I were in the UK, while my other family members, including my two younger brothers and my mum, were back home. For several days in a row, at precisely 10 p.m., flying insects, possibly desert termites, would suddenly appear in one specific room only. Despite their efforts to seal small holes and shut windows, hundreds of these termites would manifest in that particular room at the same time every night, which greatly unsettled them. Additionally, they reported hearing footsteps on the roof, feeling something running under the bed from one end to another, only to find nothing upon inspection. One particularly frightening incident occurred around 2 a.m. when my mum was awakened by noises from the upstairs roof. She woke up my 15-year-old brother, now 18, to investigate. They both heard a man's laughter near the stairs. However, as soon as he reached the top of the stairs, the laughter abruptly ceased, leaving complete silence. Numerous other inexplicable occurrences took place, including strange and scary dreams, sightings of shadows, and objects moving before their eyes. This left my family traumatized, especially my mum. Later we learned that about 50 years ago, a mother and her daughter were slain by their in-laws in the same room where these incidents mostly occurred. What's perplexing is that I lived in that house for almost 15 years, and neither I, my sister, nor my dad ever encountered anything unusual. It's possible that these occurrences are related to the two victims, or perhaps to black magic. Story 3. I have experienced paranormal activity for as long as I can remember. I am a 21-year-old female. Growing up, my home life was terrible, and I had a lot of depression from it. One particular night, I had gone to bed around 12 or 1 in the morning. The rest of my family was asleep. I was laying in bed looking at my phone when I heard a loud crash, like a brick or something to that extent hitting the floor. I jumped when I heard it, got up, and looked all over my house to see what it was. I should mention that none of my family woke up from this sound, and my mom was a very light sleeper. Once I couldn't find anything, I went back and got into bed again. Then, I heard a loud growl from my closet. It sounded like nothing I had heard before. It scared me for years to not have something covering my closet because after that, my closet looked blacker than black. It was like I always had some sort of light on in my room even when sleeping, and I still couldn't see the definition of my clothes or anything. Now, I still live in the same room when I'm home from college, and at night, I can see my clothes, and it doesn't look blacker than black in there. I have other experiences, like hearing clear as day voices or my family's when I am home alone. I often still see black figures and hear voices. Story 4. Years ago, my then-girlfriend and I moved into a small one-bedroom bungalow near Sherwood Forest. We both believed in the paranormal, but didn't think we were moving into a haunted house. We started to notice things about a month after we moved in. One night, as we were trying to get to sleep, we heard someone moving around in the living room. The flooring was really hollow, and you could hear someone in there from anywhere in the bungalow. Then, it sounded like someone had sat on the sofa. I asked her, "Did you hear that?" She said yes. I asked, "What did you hear?" And she replied, "Someone's walking around the living room and has sat on the sofa." We actually thought we were being burgled, so I found whatever makeshift weapon I could, I think it was a shoe, and kept out of the bedroom. I crossed the hallway and burst into the living room, flicking the lights on as I did. There was nobody in there. This happened night after night, and after bursting into the living room a few times, I didn't bother, as there was nobody there. But this was just the beginning. We lived there for around 5.5 years in all, and some of the things that went on were really strange. I'd find the toothpaste in the kitchen when neither of us had put it there. She would take a bath, and afterwards, ask me what I wanted as she'd heard me calling her from the other side of the bathroom door, although I'd never left the living room and hadn't heard a thing. I'd be sat watching TV in the living room and hear someone whisper in my ear, although I could never make out what it was saying. The activity seemed to be on a cycle. We'd have 3 to 4 weeks of peace and quiet, and then 3 to 4 weeks of activity. We had even seen whatever it was a few times, too. One time my girlfriend was in the bath. She'd take 45 minutes to an hour in there. And I was in the living room. I really needed to go to the toilet and ended up standing up doing the I need a wee dance. A completely black figure walked straight through the living room door, right in front of me. It walked into the middle of the living room, leaned forward as if to check me out, and then stepped back. When it stepped back, it dissolved. That's the closest description I can think of. I just stood there with my brain trying to compute what I'd just seen. I thought it had to be a shadow cast by car headlights or something in front of the large lamp that was on. I checked the street. No cars were there. It's a dead-end street. I went to the lamp, put my hand in front of it. Too much light and too big to cast a proper shadow. I spent a fair while trying to figure out a reasonable explanation for that. Another time I saw it, I had gotten up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom and didn't want to wake my girlfriend up, so I kept the lights off. There was a street lamp that shone through our kitchen and into the hallway, so I could see a bit. We had a built-in cupboard in the hallway, and I saw this big black thing blocking the light, so I thought the door was open. I reached over for the light switch, and the large black shadow took a step back. I'd just been stood toe-to-toe with this thing, thinking it was a door. I turned the light back off, and there was no shadow whatsoever. The light shone through the hallway as usual. There were lots of other things that happened over the 5.5 years we lived there, but those were the most memorable. Story 5. My childhood home carried a very disturbing backstory that was not disclosed to my parents upon purchase. My older sister was about 3 at the time my parents discovered the horrific truth behind a nightmare she had. She woke up screaming, crying, and scared of my mother. My father asked her what was wrong, and she would only repeat, "Mommy threw baby in the fire." My father assumed she had a nightmare about my mother and baby brother. So, to calm her, he showed her my baby brother was fine and assured her Mommy would never hurt her, Bubby, or Sissy, me. They eventually calmed her down. It so happened that a friend had been over to witness this frantic child's reaction to what seemed to him a very vivid dream for a child her age. He decided to do some investigating into the history of my parents' home. He went to the local library to review newspaper clippings from various dates that may give some insight. It just so happened he found the story he was looking for. A married couple who lived in my childhood home had a baby. Soon after the baby was born, the relationship took a turn for the worst, and the wife asked for a divorce. Angered by this request, the husband threw his infant into the fire of the home's furnace and buried the remains under the basement steps. His crime was discovered, and the baby's bones recovered. After finding this story, the friend quickly rushed over to show my father what he had found. My parents and various friends had experienced odd encounters in the home prior to this discovery, and we all continued to experience more throughout the years we spent there. That house was burned twice and is now an empty lot.